I'll take one more call here. Let me get caller from 210. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hey, what's up?
What's your name? Where you calling from?
Can you hear me? My name's John. I'm from Texas.
John from Texas. What's on your mind?
Good. How you doing? Actually, I wanted to make a I want to talk about Louis Farrakhan.
Okay. The way that you pronounced his name, I know you're white. Simply from the way you pronounced his name.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's funny you say that. I'm not only white. I'm a white nationalist.
Okay, that's fine. I talk to white nationalists.
Actually, we love Louis Farrakhan.
I doubt it.
Yeah, we love him. We actually, a lot of the Jewish supremacy stuff that he talks about, we immediately understand what he's talking about. That's something that's one of the core things to our identity.
Okay. Louis Farrakhan talks about white supremacy and the need to end it. So what part of that do you agree with?
Well, a lot of different things. I know that a lot of the plight of black people, it's not necessarily whites doing it. It's Jews posing as whites.
Okay, but let's talk about the whites. Let's talk about the whites. Let's talk about let's talk about the non-Jewish whites. Let's talk about the non-Jewish whites, please. Let's talk about them.
Well, what do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about the non-Jewish whites like Donald Trump and their ilk. Let's talk about them.
Okay, let's talk. Well, what do you have against them?
Wait a minute, but you said, I agree with Louis Farrakhan. Okay, he talks about white supremacists, and I'm listening about the part about that you agree with. Okay, I'm listening to hear the part about stopping white supremacy that you agree with.
Okay, well, let's talk about Donald Trump. What do you hate about Donald Trump? What directly does he do to black people that you don't like?
Well, he definitely enables and has enabled and bolstered the white supremacist apparatus. I just did an entire film about it. He appointed Jeff Sessions, a man who was so racist and white supremacist that Ronald Reagan refused to appoint him. And yet Donald Trump found this exact same guy to be suitable to appoint as Attorney General. That was Ronald Reagan didn't appoint him because he was too racist, and Donald Trump said, "That's my man." Let's start there. Or did you not know that? Was this news to you? Hello, caller. Okay, I don't think it's me. He was on the line. I'll test it out. Yeah? Caller, what happened to you? I don't hear my caller anymore. It still says he's on the line. I just don't hear anything. Don't tell me he got scared and hung up. Well, that would be unfortunate because that would just require me to do other things. Maybe it's a situation where he got cold feet. I don't know. Try this one more time. Caller, are you on the line? Okay. It says that the line is still open. He's supposed to still be there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. That was my fault. I had pressed mute on accident. Anyways, yeah, races will have bias, of course. You can see that with all white juries. of course, they're going to have a bias. All black juries will probably have a bias.
No, we do not. No, we do not. No, that's not true. That's a lie. Black people have never had a bias. We've never had the ability to have a bias. Since we got here to this country, we've had to identify with white people. In every single major election, black people have only had the option of a white person to vote for. And I can name for you several elections where we chose the white person over the black person. And when you go on juries, no, there is no racial bias where black people are concerned. No, sir. It is only when you have a white jury that you start seeing racial bias suddenly become part of the human psyche.
And not only that, I mean, if we take a notice of it, the United States wasn't built for black people. It just isn't.
I agree. It's certainly what it was built by us, but not built for us. But the real question here isn't that. The real question here is, do you have a problem with that?
Oh, no, of course not. This is the thing. I think black people should have their own will. Not only that, I think they should have their own space. I don't think there should be how to put it. I think there should be a segregation in a way, not necessarily
that doesn't
like a forced one.
That doesn't work. That's a canard
that black people can agree with.
Yeah, that doesn't work. And the reason that doesn't work is because white supremacy is global. So we're already segregated. So this idea of, quote, segregation is a canard. We are already segregated in every state in America. We're already segregated. The problem happens that we as black people, that segregation is being used against black people to socially, physically, and most importantly, economically victimize us. So segregation doesn't work.
We're segregated by state, by maybe what church we go to.
We're segregated by neighborhoods.
We're not segregated as far as black people still have to deal with white government.
Okay.
White banks.
I agree with that, but that's not going to change.
White businesses.
But that's not going to change because white wealth what you're describing are tools of dominance. And those are not going to change because that is what empowered white society. The wealth and privilege that you enjoy as a white person, that didn't just come from the ether. Those are all a result of conquest. So you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to remove those mechanisms because white society's wealth is built on the prior and continued persecution and oppression of black people. You wouldn't have the Apple Corporation. Apple is the most valuable corporation on earth right now. They were the first one. Scott Galloway missed the call on that one. He said it was going to be Amazon first and Apple second. It was Apple first, Amazon second. Amazon was the first $1 trillion market cap company. Do you know what that $1 trillion is built on? It is built out of blood minerals and blood metals out of Africa. They're the single biggest buyer of those of the gold and platinum and all the tools, all the essential elements and metals that are needed to make their iPhones. They're the single biggest buyer, just like Goodyear, I believe it is this basically runs Liberia with the rubber fields, with the rubber forest there. So you have whole parts of the U.S. economy, entire corporations that are grabbing everything that they can from us, and the black people there are impoverished. I can go down the list. They are impoverished there. So if you did try to establish a segregation of government, first thing you would do is you would lose access to those things. That's why we can talk about it as a hypothetical, but it never actually happens because they understand, you got to give all that up, don't you?
Well, yeah. No, I agree. But, I mean, if you look at it this way, look.
Wait a minute, back up. Wait. We can't leave that point, though. You made a point about we got to have separation of government. How do you get there when the government is dependent upon the exploitation of black people?
Okay. I'm going to answer your question. Look, it's in the nature of whites to conquest, all right? It's natural, all right?
Why?
We do exploit. We do travel the world. We see land, we take it. That's just
Why?
in the DNA.
Wait a minute, but why?
That's unchangeable.
Wait a minute, but why? Why is that?
Well, why? I mean, you'd have to go way back, look at certain situations of our biology, maybe our terrain, who knows? But it is what it is, right?
It's not. It is what it is. I mean, that's not a good thing. Wait, back up. Because I had this conversation with Jared Taylor and other people. He said the same thing. White people were raised in the ice, and that forced white people to be more aggressive, and he claimed more ingenious, which is not ingenious, but they had to be more resourceful because of the conditions that they were in. I will not doubt that obviously you're going to pick up, if you spend 20,000 years in the ice, obviously you're going to pick up some characteristics that may not be the most socially redeeming, like running around and busting people over the head to get resources, because you're raised in a place where resources are scarce, whereas in Africa, resources are plentiful and readily abundant, and nobody's got to beat somebody over the head to get what they need for survival. Totally understood. But here's the problem. I cannot accept it's just intrinsic in our DNA argument, because it would be different if you're saying it's intrinsic in my DNA and I'm on Mars. But if it's intrinsic, wait a minute, let me finish. Let me finish first, and then I'll let you make your point. Let me finish first. It is one thing if you are saying it is intrinsic in my DNA and you live on Mars. It is another thing if you say it is intrinsic in my DNA and I'm right outside your front door. That's a problem. And I'm not saying, by the way, I want to say this officially tonight. I'm not even saying that I necessarily agree or accept that explanation. I'm accepting it for the purposes of this discussion. I'll take it because that's the explanation that you gave. I'll just say, okay, let's run with that. But if we run with that to its natural conclusion, what we end up with is, by the way, the guy who says it's intrinsic in my DNA to bust people over the head and take it, by the way, I'm right outside your front door. Hello, knock, knock, Michael Slager here. That's why I can't accept that.
Oh. Okay, well, let me try to explain this. There's stuff that I can't change with black people, right? Let me give you a good example. Black people are very, very athletic. They're good dancers. Most I know are very good dancers. They're good communicators. You know, I can't change these things. These are just DNA. These are just basic facts. There's certain things with whites you just can't change. I think we can negotiate, but as far as changing, it's just beyond anyone's reach.
Well, here's the problem. Even if I accept that explanation as being truthful and accurate, even if I did, I cannot accept the ramifications of it. Because if you're going to say, well, white folk have a history and a pathology of running around and busting people over the head and conquering and taking things, but they're on the same planet as the rest of us. Well, what do the rest of us do with as by you explaining, a group of people who are just going to go around and bust people over the head and take things? What do the rest of us do?
Well, I can tell you what the future looks like. This is what the future looks like. Right now, Africa, actually, the black people on Africa were poised for extinction. But due to tremendous amount of foreign aid, the black continent and the black people, the population is bound to explode to over 2 billion people in the next 40 years.
Untrue.
You have...
Untrue. Alex, untrue. That's a misnomer.
You have enough talent.
That's untrue. That what you just said is actually factually inaccurate. Right now, there is a global, what they call the scramble for Africa. There is a huge global scramble for Africa. The French are there. They've been there. The Brits are trying to run in. The Asians are swarming the place. Now they're calling Africa China's China. The Russians are all over the place. There's an interracial epidemic, specifically where the Asians are concerned. They're sleeping with every black female they can get their hands on. They're trying to run for political office in those areas. So when you say the, quote, population of Africa, but that black people were, when you said that black people were on the brink of extinction, no, we were never on the brink of extinction. That was never the case. But black people are on the brink of extinction now with the socioeconomic strangulation that has taken place over the last 500 years. And now with this socioeconomic invasion by literally everybody on earth running into Africa to take everything that ain't bolted down and a few things that are. That's a very real situation of extinction. When you got a situation where there are over a billion Chinese, they can't get a Chinese woman. By the way, that's a very famous problem in China right now, is Chinese men not being able to get a Chinese woman. Meanwhile, they're over there in Africa laying on top of everything they can get themselves on top of there. This is a very real existential threat. So no, we were facing oppression before. We're facing extinction now. Now, let me ask you a question here, because I couldn't help but notice you sound like you have a bit of an accent. Would you happen to be a Latino? Would you happen to be a Latino or Hispanic?
I'm actually from Argentina, yeah.
Okay, you're from Argentina. Okay, that's good. That's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that right there. That's another place, by the way, white supremacy, long roots there with European cultures. Understand something, though. You are going to have to change that. You better change it. Because while you're looking at black people, just understand white people are already a global minority. And over the next 40 years, it's only going to get more so. And this is what you need to be most concerned about. As a young white person, how old are you? How old are you? How old are you?
25.
Okay, you're a young fella. And I will excuse young men for doing foolish things, because you said before, talking about you're a white supremacist or white nationalist. I can excuse young men for doing foolish things, but you better grow out of that quickly. Let me do this as a favor to you. Grow out of it quickly, because when you sit among a group of white people, this flies. It's fine, but this isn't the real world. Getting around among a group of them ain't the real world. You're going to be out here in a world of 7 billion people where you're outnumbered 8-1. White supremacy works as an artificial construct in a controlled environment, but the environment is becoming less controlled. Now, the last 500 years, white people were the growth population. That has now flip-flopped. White people have reached birth equilibrium, and everybody else is having explosions of population. Now that's actually naturally driven by poverty, because children are the investment of the poor. White people became affluent. They didn't have to invest in children anymore because they had a built-up economy. Therefore, it wasn't necessary to have all these kids to take care of them socioeconomically, because their economy was matured and stable. Everybody else is trying to get there. Once everybody else economies become matured and stable, you can see that drop off too. But until then, brother, you're walking into a world where you're grossly outnumbered. And it would be a hell of a thing for you to keep doing that, cultivating an environment where people say, well, you know what? If these guys believe in knocking people over the head and taking things, I'm going to start knocking folk over the head and take things too, as an acceptable form of culture. And I don't think you want that. You're 25 years old. Do you want your children fighting these battles that you are starting today? That's going to be their your children's real legacy won't be white supremacy. It will be never-ending conflict in a world where they are outnumbered. Is that really what you want?
I can tell you this. And we'll probably end on this note. As you know, identity politics is very strong. It's so strong
among whites.
It's unavoidable.
Among whites, yes. Among white supremacists, yes. Not among everybody else. Well, not among black people. I'm sorry. Not among black people.
We're to the point where, you have to pick a side. Your callers know. Your people know. That's the case. It's unchangeable.
Well, let me ask you something.
It's out of my control, even.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you something here. You're from Argentina, so you wouldn't even qualify as a Caucasian. So how is it that you're from Argentina, but you subscribe to white nationalism and white supremacy? How can that be?
Well, I am white.
Okay, but do you understand that if you got in a room full of Germans or Englishmen like Richard Spencer and Jared Taylor, who trace their roots back to England, they would tell you that you're not? You say you're...
Actually, I've met Jared Taylor. I've met Jared Taylor. I've been to his conferences. I'm part German. I mean,
you're part German. Yeah, you're part German, but if you got any of that Latino strain in you, and by that I'm talking about like Tejano Indians or something like that, if you got that, you're not going to be white enough.
I mean, it's self-evident. I mean, just looking at me, I mean, that's the case. I mean, it's not that hard to tell people's races.
Are you blonde? Are you blonde-headed and blue-eyed?
I mean, I can give my Instagram handle if you want to check me out.
No, I'll take your word. I'll take your word.
You.
Yeah, you can give me your Instagram handle. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, it's @_Don Johnson _123.
@_Don Johnson _123.
There you go.
Okay, I'm assuming that you are not the actor Don Johnson. I'm assuming that you're not him. So, would that be a safe bet?
Nope, that's my name, Donald Johnson.
Okay, I'm just checking on that there. Is that you on here with all the dogs?
Dogs?
Yeah. Unless I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Is this you on here, Don _Johnson _123?
It's @_Don Johnson _123.
Okay, well, I guess I got that wrong there. Oh, it's just all one word for the Don Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I'm bringing up the same thing. For some reason I'm just getting the same thing here. I see a cat and some other things there, so maybe I'm seeing.
Okay,
maybe I'm not bringing up the cat. That's your page.
Well, I'm not the cat, but yeah, the whole profile, that's me.
Yes. I didn't think that you were the cat. No, I did not think you were a feline. I didn't think you were a feline.
I have the mustache.
Okay, you're the guy with the mustache, so okay, that's fine. I mean, now understand something. You got the white supremacist playbook here. He's got a bunch of guns. What's the deal with the guns, man? Why can't we just post online? What's the deal with the guns? Why do we need that?
Oh, the guns? Oh, that's simple. I'm a guy. I like to hunt. I'm in Texas. I mean, gun state. I have a truck. I mean, that's just a thing.
Okay. Now I'm taking a look at you, my man. Brother, you got brown eyes.
Yeah, that's a very common eye color.
Okay, but what I'm telling you is you think that Jared Taylor is working on a future with you? I'm just being for real. So you think that you and Jared Taylor are fellow travelers and that you and Jared Taylor are playing on the same team? You really think that's the case?
I disagree with him on a couple of things, but
why don't you enlighten me? Whoa,
the white race is very diverse.
Okay, enlighten me.
We have red hair, brown hair, blonde hair, light brown hair.
Yeah, but I mean, you're trying to
green eyes, blue eyes, brown eyes.
Yeah,
hazel.
But you're trying to negotiate your way in. You say the white race, and I understand that technically, as far as a lot of people are concerned, yeah, you're going to technically qualify, sure. But what I'm saying here, brother, is taking a look at you right here. You are so obviously not an Aryan. You are so obviously not an Aryan. And I'm saying you can play this game. Okay, we'll run around with Richard Spence, or we'll run around with Jared Taylor and stuff. And I'm like, brother, I'm looking at you right now. I've talked to him also. I don't see a future for you there. I can understand what you're trying to do, but I don't see a future for you.
My ethnicity may be even better than the Aryans. We come from Romans.
Okay.
Built the best society on earth.
Okay, but when it's time for the race war to jump off, do you think that Jared's going to be shooting with you or shooting at you?
Jared's not the shooting type.
Okay, well, yeah, you actually. No, he gets other. He props other people up to do it. But he would probably tell somebody like you go and do it for him. But my real point here, brother, is do you think that Jared Taylor? Do you think that Jared would allow you to date one of his daughters? I mean, for real, do you think that that's going to be, do you think that's going to be allowed? Do you think that Jared Taylor would, after you leave his conference, do you think that he's going to be okay with you dating one of his daughters? For real. Do you really think that's going to happen?
To tell you the truth, I'm not, I probably wouldn't date his daughters. No offense to Mr. Taylor, but, you know, I like my own kind of women.
Wait a minute. My own kind of women. Now explain that one to me.
Well, I think that you're thinking of the white race as blonde hair, blue eyes, and that's it. I mean, we're from them all the way from the Mediterranean all the way up to the Scandinavian countries.
Okay.
I mean, do you know who Mark Collett is?
Not off the top of my head. Okay, now that name sounds more familiar. But here's my real issue about this, because I run into this also.
I want you to put.
Slow down.
Mark Collett on the screen.
Okay. Slow down for a moment, because right now I need to talk to Don Juan here. Okay. Understand something.
Okay.
Because I need to talk about you. I don't want to get sidetracked into other people. I need to talk about you, because what I'm saying is that you're saying that there are different types of white people. Can you elaborate on that some more about how it is there are different types of white people, but you believe that all of you are on the same team? Can you explain to me exactly how that works? I'm just asking. I'm not debating. I'm just saying, can you articulate it to me how exactly that works so that I can understand going forward how it is that you see yourself in this dynamic?
Okay, sure. I'll give you an example with a good analogy. You have sub-Saharan Africans and you have Ethiopians, right? They're both black, but they both have distinctive features. The same thing with Europe. In Europe, we have Northern Europeans, which are more Scandinavians, and then you have the Mediterraneans, which you have your Italians, your Spanish, your Portuguese, etc. And, well, there you go. You know, then you have your more Germanic tribes in the middle.
Okay, and you don't see that as maybe an issue or something like that? Like that's going to cause problems based on like who is the real white person? Because power is not inclusive, power is exclusive. And the Jews,
I don't think it's a big problem. I mean,
the Jews were determined to not be white enough. The Armenians were determined to not be white enough. Why would you believe that you Spaniards would not be determined to also not be white enough at some point? Why would you believe that's not the case? It's happened before. Why would you believe this is going to be different?
Can I ask you a question?
Well, let me get the answer. Let me get the answer to that question first, and then I'll answer whatever you want. But let me get the answer to that question first. Why do you believe that won't happen?
Okay.
Why do you believe that won't happen again?
Well, if you go back, yeah, there's ethnic differences, but we're in a different time. The world's progressed. There's so much different mixes out here. It's not as clear cut as you think, and I guess that's a very vague answer, but it should answer some of your question. Yeah.
Well, it's a very vague answer. It doesn't really answer it here. What I'm saying is that at one time they were more homogenous. They were fighting over religions and whatnot, but not over their ethnicity. And then as power grew among certain separate nation states, Germany and Britain, they started voting the other white folk off the island. You're not white enough. And then next thing you know, we start having these balkanizations. Then the 20th century happens and black people's numbers are on the rise. People who are clearly not Caucasians' numbers are on the rise. And all of a sudden we start seeing this regrouping again, because remember in the United States, even white Hispanics were classified as white people until the 1970 census. So it's only really within our lifetime, well, my lifetime, and nearly within yours, that you all were classified officially as white, and just that quickly no longer are. So I'm telling you, history is moving in a certain direction, all right? Yeah, it's moving in the direction of away from what you're talking about. They're not trying to figure out how to include you. They've actually got documentation to exclude you on the books. Within my lifetime, you went from being officially government acknowledged in America, government acknowledged as white, to no longer being acknowledged as white in my lifetime, and nobody's trying to reverse that. No one. They want it etched in stone now. Do you understand that part?
I want to play devil's advocate here. Is Stephen Curry black?
Is Stephen Curry black? Now,
is James Harden black?
Okay, let's start with what you're talking about for mixed people like that. I would say that they are mixed black people based upon their affinity and affiliation, because they do have African ancestry. Now, what we're really getting into is a political argument, but understand where the roots of it come from. It is not we as black people who determined that there was a black race. It was white people who determined that. We live in a system of white supremacy. They're the ones who said these are the lines of balkanization. So the question here isn't, do I think he's black? The question is, do white people think he's white? Because they're the ones who determine what's on the census, what you'll be classified as, what you can legally argue. They're the ones who determine that. I can't walk into court and say I'm white, because the white judge or even the black judge is going to take a look at the laws that the white people made and say, well, this is what the law says you are. So if I get arrested by the police, I can argue I'm white all day, looking like Denzel Washington. I can argue that all day. But if the white law says you're black, you're black. And if you're mixed, Tiger Woods, he could argue all day about that Caucasian mess when he got arrested by his white wife, because of his white wife. When he got arrested, the police put down black. There is no box for Caucasian. There is no box for mixed, and we have determined you're black. So we don't get to make that determination. Stephen Curry doesn't get to make it. White society made those choices for us. I didn't create the game. I'm just playing the best I can.
Oh, there you go. That's I guess that answers yours and my question.
Now, in your case, you can say you're white and Jared Taylor will sit there and nod his head. You are what they would call an honorary white person. And understand, Jared very much believes in that. I talked to him about Asians. He spent the first 16 years of his life in Japan. And he would consider you to be an honorary white person. But you're putting the emphasis on white. He's putting the emphasis on honorary. Now, I'm not here to convince you what you are, what you aren't. You've already made it very clear right here, and I think it's very valid for what you're saying. I'm not here to argue that point there. You can go ahead and do that as much as you want to. And I want to thank you for your candor about it. I wish there were more people who were more candid about it and more upfront about it. But I also want you to understand that you're going to find that the folks you may find yourself mobbing with, they got different plans for you than you've got for them. They already know how they want this game to end. And they're sitting there with their arm around you and smiling big as they can. But they got plans for you. And their plan does not include prosperity.
Well, if we can end on one note, I think I want to let some of your viewers know there's no animosity between any white nationalism, the alt-right, towards any blacks or black nationalists. We agree on a lot. Trust me, we do.
But there's something we don't agree on.
I think it's fun to put someone on your call show and then, kind of give them the, here's my take on it. And hey, I understand there's a lot of, the black community historically has been mistreated. That's not a lie.
Well, okay, but brother, here's the problem. I say brother. Don Juan, here's the issue. And by the way, I'm not mocking him. On his Instagram, it says Don Juan on one of the gun locks on one of his pictures here. So I'm not mocking him. He put Don Juan.
Oh, no. That's actually my nickname, yeah.
Oh, okay. And you were out there on I-20, one of your friends jumping up on the Louisiana sign out there. By the way, I'm surprised y'all didn't get arrested. But, so like I said, you were out there on I-20 taking pictures, and looks like, yeah, I-20 again you all took a road trip and just took pictures everywhere. All right, so I'm not mocking him, but my real thing about this, brother, I say brother to everybody. My real thing about this, Don Juan, is that understand something, and can we all just get along? Do you understand that is a contradiction what you're saying? You can't say I am a white nationalist and I want to get along with, but there's no problem with black folk. You can't say that, because if I ask you one question, it's going to be a problem. Can you tell me what is the difference between black people and white people that encouraged or influenced you to identify yourself as a white nationalist?
There's so many things. The culture, the identity, the history, the struggle. There's so many things.
Okay, but you got that between you and Germans.
I don't know what it is to be a black man in America. I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. I mean, when I get pulled over, I mean, hey, I don't see what whoever got shot saw. You know what I mean? I don't. So as far as that's the difference. There is a big difference.
Right, but what I'm saying to you though is that, like, one of Jared Taylor's main tenets is that there are intellectual differences, by that IQ differences between white people and black people. Do you adhere to that also?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain?
Can I explain?
Yes, absolutely. I want you to explain. Go ahead.
Sure. I can agree on this, and I think everyone can agree on this. Black people are athletically, they're more, how do I put it? They're more artistic in a way. They're good at their own different things, and it's self-evident. I mean, look at the NBA. 80% of it is black. Our Olympics, the United States wouldn't win any Olympics nowadays if it wasn't for black people in the Olympics, right? Now, look at modern inventions. Look at societies. Look at civilizations. Whites have been on the forefront. If you take white people out of history, you have no history. Well, with the exception of Asian.
Well, okay, so what you're saying is that metallurgy, which began in Africa, writing, counting systems, mathematical systems, astronomy, which began in Africa. Look no further than the Dogon tribe for that, who mapped Sirius B millennia ago. While white people were still trying to figure out how to put two pieces of glass in front of each other to see the stars, black people in Africa were mapping out the stars millennia ago. So that's a talking point that white supremacists pass among each other that is totally divorced from history and reality. And I did this with Jared Taylor also. Totally divorced. For example, the pyramids. Black people built the pyramids. If you don't believe that black people built the pyramids, if you believe that white people built them, question. Why is it that Europe is the only place you can't find pyramids if white folk from Europe built the pyramids? Why is Europe the only place that doesn't have any? You got them in Africa. You can find some in Asia. You can find them in South America, North America. The only place you can't find pyramids is in Europe. If white people were so technologically advanced, so intellectually superior, how is it that black folk built the pyramids? And if you want to believe that white people built them, why are there none in Europe if they built them?
Well, this is what I do know.
Wait,
I've been to Africa.
No. Backtrack. Slow down.
Okay, go for it. You got it.
Did white people build the pyramids or did black people build them?
It was Arabs.
Okay.
Arabs built the pyramids.
Have you ever seen a hieroglyph?
Yes.
The Asiatics that you are calling Arabs, have you ever actually followed to see when they entered Africa?
No, I'm not a scholar in.
Okay, let me just cut to the chase. They are recent visitors to Africa. They haven't been there for thousands of years. That's not true. They have not been there for thousands of years. Their influx into Africa does not predate the pyramids. Their appearance in Africa does not the only way you can say that the Arabs built the pyramids is if you could prove that the Arabs' presence in Africa predates those structures. They don't.
All right, well, how about this? I'll concede your point. Let's just say this. Let's just say I give it to you guys, right? Oh, okay, the black people built the pyramids, they invented math, whatever, they probably went in space before anyone else. Sure, go for it. But what about now? I mean, I've been to Africa now. It's not. I don't see any shred of intelligence except for whatever area has been colonized.
Very glad you mentioned that as well. Now, where are the places in Africa that you've been to?
Burkina Faso.
Okay. Where else?
That's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. So he's visited one place in Africa and apparently felt he had the finger on the pulse of Africa. Brother, I say brother advisedly, you do understand, and you can Google this if you'd like. I've told people about this before. When I talked to Jared Taylor about this and Richard Spencer, I talked to both of them about this when they tried this as well. When I interviewed them in my documentary Race War, which, by the way, this part of it will be on the 3-disc version. When I asked them these questions about this, Jared in particular, I said, now you do understand that the smartest students in the world come from Africa, not America, not Asia. The smartest students come from Africa and specifically from Nigeria. They consistently outperform everyone else. Now, Jerry tried to say, it's because they come from rich families. That has nothing to do with intelligence when you sat up here and said that black people are 15 points behind. The Asians come from rich families, too. So the Africans, and first of all, there's no proof that they come from rich families, by the way. He's just saying that. Black immigrants from Africa routinely outperform everyone else. Routinely. They got that Will Smith movie Concussion. That's actually a norm. They routinely outperform everyone else. And you can Google this. Stephen Molyneux, when he tried to make this argument, he was in an interview, and you go look this on YouTube as well. Stephen Molyneux tried to make this argument that you're trying to make about different forms of intelligence, that black folk have a higher IQ for dancing and sports, whatever in the hell that means. How do you measure IQ for sports and dancing, by the way? But in any case, Stephen Molyneux said that, and the host actually stopped him. White man host actually stopped him and said, but there are many tests, we've seen this, especially Ivy League universities, where African immigrants routinely outperform whites and Asians, to which Stephen conceded that was true, and then went back to his point talking about in different intelligences. So what you just said is actually factually false. Anybody using Google can go look it up and see that that's not so. It's a white supremacist talking point, but it's not actually connected to reality. Go and try to call him back.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Don Juan. Looks like Blog Talk ran out of time for you there, but I've got you on my Skype now, so you should be okay. I hope I didn't wake up the kids or the other white nationalists out there hanging out.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Tell me what you want to know.
Oh, so you no, because you were explaining to me about I was explaining to you about the fact that Africans routinely score higher and outperform whites and Asians whenever they're allowed to do so at all of your Ivy Leagues. You can go, anybody who wants to Google that, or ask Stephen Molyneux. He certainly agrees with that as well. So what you gave is a talking point, but it's not actually connected to reality. Now,
can I tell you what I was tough?
Can you tell me about what?
Can I tell you my position on that?
Okay.
Sure. I'm going to tell you this. Black people, I'm not doubting their intelligence. They're probably very intelligent. But why is it not evident? Why aren't their countries good? Why is every black enclave a mess?
Okay. Before I can answer that question, I need to know what you define as a black enclave.
Haiti, Jamaica, northern Brazil.
Okay. Very glad that you mentioned that. Now, Haiti, Jamaica, northern Brazil. And I want to keep up with those 3 specific examples, okay? And everyone in the chat, by the way, if you look in the chat room, they're just going to blow it up about that. Let's take a look. First of all, one question.
Oh, by the way, I think I don't know why, but my Instagram is like blowing up with like messages and whatnot. But I don't mind. I don't mind.
I have a bit of a following, so just don't worry about it. You're famous, but in any case, well, at least for 15 minutes you will be. So enjoy it while you got it. It passes very quickly, let me tell you. But you named those places. First of all, the places that you just named. Are any of those places that are not direct victims of white colonial colonization and oppression?
They have a lot of foreign aid.
Okay, I didn't ask that. You're talking about where Haiti is today. That would be as erroneous as me saying, take a look at Stephen Curry today. He was born this way. He was not born 6'6" and in the NBA. We got to talk about the previous 2.5 decades, how he got here. We can't sit here and white supremacists do this a lot. They try to divorce. They have convoluted thinking where they just tell you, take a look at the snapshot of the world today and then accept our broken, ideologically based but erroneous explanation for why you see the snapshot. If you take a look at Haiti, did Haiti start that way, or is Haiti the result of something? Because if you walk through your kitchen and you saw a broken glass on the floor, would you just assume that that glass was created broken? Or would you say, who broke this glass?
Well, that's not really a very good way to put it. Let me give you a better example.
Wait. That's an excellent way to put it based on what I said. You mentioned Haiti, you mentioned Jamaica, you mentioned northern Brazil. But yet you didn't mention what the problem was with them. Well, black people are more intelligent. Why isn't it self-evident? Well, I took a look at Haiti. Okay, let's take a look at Haiti. Haiti, the only place that these black folk who supposedly weren't so intelligent were able to fight off all of the colonial powers, all of the colonial superpowers. They are the only nation in history that has ever fought its way to liberation out of slavery. These people that you claim, why isn't it self-evident? It sure was in 1804. It was pretty self-evident then. Something that even white people have not been able to do. So along with the pyramids, you can rack up Haiti on top of that. So if black folks' intelligence is not so self-evident, can you explain to us what happened in 1804? Why did that occur if it's not self-evident?
Sure, but look, let me give you this. Why is Africa right now not? I mean, black people have been around longer than any other race.
Back up. Haiti. Let's deal with Haiti. You named 3 places. I'm addressing the 3 places that you named. Haiti, number 1. If black people's intelligence was not self-evident, how did they beat all of the European colonial powers with no military, with no extreme finances of their own? How did these people with a ragtag army with no formal military training beat every colonial power in the world on their own? If that's not a testament to our ingenuity as a people, how did that occur?
Okay, I'll give you the response to that. I mean, it was a lost cause. I mean, there's really nothing for Europeans to fight there. They just said, well, we'll leave them to their own.
But they didn't. They did not do that. Napoleon sold the Louisiana Purchase because of the events in Haiti. They were not trying to give up Haiti. They fought for Haiti because Haiti was a major port where they were getting resources out of that they were using to fuel their economies. Haiti is not some little dirt ball that nobody cared about. You don't sit up here and fight a war with somebody over something that is pointless and without value. With something that's worthless. You don't fight a war over something that's worthless. You say, okay, well, they're over there fooling around and acting up. They can have it. This is another lie that white supremacists trot out, that white folk have fought wars over worthless things. They're not in the Persian Gulf because the Gulf is worthless. They're in the Persian Gulf because it's sitting on $60 trillion worth of oil. They're not in Afghanistan because Afghanistan is worthless. They're in Afghanistan because it's sitting on $2 trillion worth of precious minerals, and that's only what they found since they were able to Taliban, they're probably going to find even more than that. They didn't invade Canada because Canada was worthless. They invaded it because it's sitting on trillions of dollars of oil, diamonds, and gold. They didn't go into South America because they thought it was worthless. I can keep doing this all day. The point is, if you see a white man with a gun talking about get off this land, it's because it's valuable. So the idea that it's a lost cause and isn't worth anything, that spits in the eye of history, sir. The French didn't go over there with an army because it was worthless. The Britons didn't go over there with an army because it was worthless. Nobody goes to a place that's worthless with their guns.
I don't know the history of Haiti to tell you exactly what happened.
Okay.
So
now we get to the root of the problem.
Look at it now. Look at it now. I mean,
no.
It's a trash heap.
No, you can't say look at it now and then say, but we're not going to put it in any context. Haiti is dominated and decimated. Okay, we gotta get the white supremacists here.
Then what's the point of intelligence?
Don Juan.
What's the point of intelligence if you're going to be dominated and subjugated?
No. The point of intelligence is that we're telling you that black folk did have that. You're referring to an area that has been outnumbered, outgunned, and was militarily overwhelmed. That has nothing to do with their intelligence. You can be a Harvard scholar. I walk up and bust you in the head and take your wallet. Does that mean that you're an idiot or that you're dumb or that I'm smarter than you? Because that's the logic that you're employing. Well, if white folk were able to walk over there and bust them in the head and take what they got, and that means that we were smarter than them and they were dumber than us, right? That's the logic you're employing. You're not saying a word.
Why didn't blacks invent a nuclear bomb?
Because we do not believe, in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, everything that for Africans, everything that moves does not move for war. We don't look at the world as something that should be nuclearized and weaponized. We are standing on the verge.
Tell that to Shaka Zulu.
Shaka Zulu was not. First of all, if the only thing you know about Shaka Zulu is the movie, you don't know anything. What do you know about Shaka Zulu?
A lot actually.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Well, tell me.
Let me get to the point.
No. You know what the movie. You know what the movie shows.
Warlord after warlord in Africa, and you can't tell me Africans aren't violent.
Can you show me a single quote warlord in Africa that was not created by colonial powers? Name one.
Colonialism brought positivity to Africa.
You said the warlords were bad. You said the warlords were bad. Name a warlord. Name an African quote unquote so-called, because that term itself, by the way, is white supremacists created. Name a African quote warlord that was not created by white powers. Name one.
If it wasn't for white colonialism,
I asked you to name one. Would be extinct. Okay, I'm just asking you name one, because we only discussed Haiti. We didn't get to discuss Jamaica and Bookman Duddy. You don't want to get into that. We didn't discuss Northern Brazil, by the way. But if you want to skip off of that, I'm just going to concede, okay, he's tapped out. He wants to move on to something else. Can you please tell me the African warlord that was not directly created by a white European or white colonial power? Name one. I'm asking you. You said African warlords. Name one that they didn't create.
Look, this is a stupid argument.
He's tapping out. He's tapping out again. He's tapping out. If you want to discuss,
I'm not tapping out.
If you want to discuss Charles Taylor, we can discuss Charles Taylor. We can discuss in Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, who was knighted. We can discuss Idi Amin. White folk love black people in Africa until we stop doing what they want us to do. Then all of a sudden you transform into a warlord. When Robert Mugabe was knighted by the Queen of England, by the way, for those of you who didn't know in the white supremacist community, Robert Mugabe is a knight in England. He was knighted. Go look it up for yourself. Another thing you can learn about here. England loved Robert Mugabe until he said white folk got to get off this land and get off this our resources. Then he became the dictator. Then he became the warlord. warlord. Charles Taylor, same thing. Everything was fine until he said, you know what? I think I want more to assert more of our primacy. Then he became the warlord. Then he became the dictator. Idi Amin, the last king of Scotland. He was wonderful with white folk until the famous picture of white people bowing to him like a god. And then he said, now we're going to talk about black people asserting our rights over our land. Then he became a cannibal. Then he became a warlord. Then he became all those terms. Haile Selassie, yes, all of a sudden we become warlords when we don't do what white people tell us. So this idea of the quote African warlord is a fiction created by white supremacists. What you really mean is the Negroes.
What I'm trying to get at is your notion that black people are just innocent butterflies roaming through Africa.
I didn't say that.
With no desire to conquer the world. If black people had the intelligence that Europeans did, they'd be the emperors of the world.
So you're saying you're saying the empire building and going around colonializing and oppressing people is your standard of intelligence?
It's a human thing. It's a human thing.
Then why is it that we didn't do it? We're the creators of humanity and civilization. Why is it we didn't do it?
Black people didn't do it because of the cognitive intelligence it takes for dominance.
So you're saying that your measurement of intelligence is your willingness or ability to run around and conquer and oppress people?
Of course, there's always gonna be an aggressor. You don't understand this.
No, it's like, you don't understand.
Here, look. If you could just let me speak clearly.
Sure.
I want to tell this to your audience. They're obviously. This is even a message that you could agree with. If your people don't practice any form of conquest, dominance in any form, technology, monopoly, business, it doesn't matter.
I didn't do anything.
Hello?
Yes, please watch your cheeks or your mustache must be hitting the mute button.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was trying to say is this.
Yes, are you gonna say it? You know, us people of lower cognitive intelligence have to keep telling you stop hitting the mute button or something. We might have to tell him how to work his phone.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you if you'll stop playing with your phone, apparently. Yes.
No, it's I have big hands. Sorry about that. Anyways.
Okay.
This is the thing. If black people want to pursue any form of future for themselves, there has to be some sort of conquest that they have to do. I mean, that's the main reason why black people are unsuccessful in many areas. Mm-hmm. They don't pursue anything.
Okay, was that your point?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Now, understand what you just said. First of all, you said for black people to succeed, they need to become more like us. Not that black people need to be more like themselves, but they need to be more like us. And the part that you want black people to be more like is the warlike part. You didn't say math, you didn't say science, you didn't say art, because you've already conceded, well, black people pretty much got a handle on that art and science thing, even if you don't want to concede math. The only part that you said that we're lacking in is, by the way, why aren't you all more warlike? Now, you can't say
Africans are warlike.
But that's not my point. But you can't say that we didn't build you can't say that we didn't go around empire building and then at the same time say we're warlike. Which one is it?
There's a difference. You can be bad at something.
Okay, but you can't be bad at killing people and be good at the same.
Oh, yeah, you can.
No, you can't be bad.
Africans are.
You can't be bad at it and be good at it at the same time. You're arguing against your own point. Either black folk.
Well, look at Chicago.
Yes.
Black people kill, but they kill themselves.
Okay. First of all, that's highly overstated. Second of all, I can show you plenty of places in white society where that occurs, and cafes and a bar in California By the way, I can't remember the last time a black person went into a place and tried to massacre a bunch of people they didn't know. At least you can say...
The amount of death black people cause each other is worse than any mass shooting.
Sir, can you count?
In the U.S.
No, it is not. That's a lie.
Combined.
No, sir. You cannot even count, apparently. That's untrue. The FBI proves that.
There's 800 murders in Chicago, just on the south side.
First of all, that's highly overstated. Second of all, you got anything else other than Chicago? Anywhere else?
Sure.
Now remember Google Compton.
Ward of Houston.
Wait a minute. Now Compton. Did you just say Compton?
Louisiana.
Sir,
Baton
whoa,
Rouge,
no. Louisiana's a state. Louisiana's a state.
DC?
Louisiana's a state. And first of all, you do realize that anybody can go Google those numbers right now and show what the hell you're talking about. Compton, by the way, is majority Latino.
It's getting there, yeah.
No, it ain't getting there. In case you didn't know. This is what I mean. These guys, they're not fighting black people. They're fighting their stereotypes. You know, this goes back to that you sucker thing right there. It just goes back to yo, homeboy. That's what they're fighting. They're fighting boys in the hood. They're not fighting us today. They're fighting some anachronism. They're fighting some stereotype. They're not fighting reality. They're just, they make up these myths and then they fight the myth. They don't fight the actual reality.
It's not a myth. I mean, it's true.
Okay.
You could just see it.
You just named off a bunch of places that you're just naming whole states. Other than Chicago, once we take Chicago off the board, you all don't have anything. D.C. does not have a murder problem. Back in the 1980s,
right here in the fifth ward of Houston, we have about a murder every night.
Do you have
it's just black people.
Do you have a murder every night the same way that you've got a warlord in every place in Africa? Just out of curiosity.
It's worse in Africa.
No. I'm just saying, because I asked you about the warlords before and you jumped off of that. So is this the same math that you were using for your warlord statistic in Africa?
Look, I can guarantee you there's not one person on your page that subscribed to you that would want to live in Africa. If you take them there, they'd cry, kick, and scream to come back.
Okay, if that is
so, you can't tell me.
If that's true, if that is true that nobody would want to live in Africa, why is it that America's got more troops over there and they are refusing why is it white Africans are arming themselves to try to go to war against black Africans in South Africa? And I say white Africans in quotations. Whites in South Africa are arming themselves. They're 10% of the population. They're arming themselves to fight and stay in South Africa. If what you just said is true, why is that happening?
Illegal land grab.
Okay, but you just said that if black folk went to Africa, they'd be screaming to come back. Then why are the white folk over there arming themselves to go to war to stay if Africa is a place that no one with any sense would want to live in?
There's a black neighborhood. I mean, sorry, excuse that. There's a white neighborhood, which is white Africa.
All right, let's
just put it that way.
Get your story straight. Get your lie straight. Come on. Let me give you a minute to regroup. Get this straight.
I'm sorry, I'm waiting for you to finish.
Get this straight now. Come on, because you're stumbling over your words here. Let me just talk for a minute here so you can get your story straight real quick.
I'm waiting for you to finish.
In every place in Africa where there are white people, and by the way, yes, I already said about this Chicago thing. I've said that. Every place in Africa where there are white people, they are armed to fight to stay where they are. In Zimbabwe, even in Rwanda, believe it or not, in South Africa, any place where the government there is talking about redistributing the land to black people, white folk are arming themselves. If Africa is a place that black folk in America would never want to go, then why is it that the white folk in Africa are arming themselves to fight and risk their lives to stay in a place that no black person in America would want to go? Doesn't that make the white folk in Africa either pretty stupid or your statement is false?
No,
which one is it?
I'm going to answer that. Let me talk. Wherever my people are, they create a society so good that whenever another person gets a chance, they'll try to take over the space. Okay,
you said my people. Who are the white Argentinians? And by the way, if we want to discuss would you all like to Google Argentina and economy?
It's a great place to live.
Okay, stop. Would you all like to Google the words Argentina and economy?
Sure, go for it. Everyone Google it.
If you all think what he's saying is guys so on the ball, by the way, just go Google the words Argentina and economy and
I can guarantee you it's a way better place
than
Black Africa.
And get ready for what you're going to see. By the way, this is Jason Black. I don't have time to go into it, but by the way, if people like our caller got it so on the ball, go Google Argentina and economy and watch what you're going to see stretching back for not years, but decades. Now, back to my original question. Fine, if you want to make that fiction that you just said, what you said was a philosophy, it's not a scientific fact, it's definitely not a mathematical fact. If you are 5 or 10% of the population, well, we made it so good. So you're 10% of the population, and the other 90% that surrounds it that you said have made it so bad that nobody would want to be there. And then you just said, but somehow white people have waved their magic wands and figured out how to make paradise in the middle of this hell. That doesn't even make sense.
Of course it does. Sense. You just can't quantify it.
No, it makes sense if the place is not hell. If you got 10% of the population can come over there and steal and exploit for their own benefit, but you can't do that in hell. Now, you can do it
if you have the intelligence, you can make sugar to shit.
Okay, but you can do it in heaven. You can't do it in a place that nobody wants to be and nobody can make work. And you just somehow have a magical power to do it. What you're saying sounds good as
It's science. Not magical power. It's called intelligence.
What you're saying sounds good as science fiction. It just doesn't work mathematically. There's no mathematical
That's
formula.
Reality.
There's no mathematical formula that bolsters what you're saying or justifies it. It works as fiction, but it doesn't work as fact. The math won't work. Now, the only way that works is Africa is a great place where people are able to thrive and influence and thrive and prosper. And you've got a white minority that has gone over to Africa with their guns as a legacy of colonialism. They've taken all the resources and impoverished everyone else. So in true capitalist fashion, 90% of the people are having blood sucked from them so that the 10% of white folk live high on the hog. Now that's
intelligence.
Now, well, okay, you can call that intelligence. There are other people who would call that barbarism. I noticed you didn't use that word. Now, why would I, as an African, wish to become a barbarian?
Many different reasons.
So there's a justifiable reason why a person would desire to become a barbarian. I can't wait to hear this. Please explain.
Well, I'm a barbarian in certain aspects. I mean, it just depends.
Okay. And as an African, I am civilized. I have no desire to see the world descend into barbarism. I have no desire to see the world become a place where
I don't think most modern men want that either.
Okay, but you have just described and defended barbarism. You just did it, so yes, clearly you do.
Okay, look. This is what I see. When I see Rwandans being massacred.
Ask the French.
When I see Joseph Kony killing, taking slaves of children.
Ask the Portuguese.
That's barbarism.
I notice you're not. I'm noticing that you're not mentioning any of the. First of all, with Kony, that was a fraud, by the way. That was a fraud. So the fact you just mentioned that, now you're mixing your metaphors and your stereotypes with outright fraud. Kony was a fraud.
Is Charles Taylor a fraud?
No, Charles Taylor was not a fraud. Charles Taylor was built, and the white folk had no problem putting him in place when he was doing what they wanted. They thought Charles Taylor was great. Nobody had a single bad thing to say about Charles Taylor until he stopped obeying his white masters. Then you saw the white media say that he was a warlord and a criminal. They're going down the usual list of frauds and lies. Warlords, criminal, child soldiers, all this garbage. But why is it that that wasn't a problem when you were propping him up? If he was all those things before, then why did you, if those things were bad, why did you prop him up when he was doing it? If Supposedly, he was doing it before. We've already had this, sir. I already told you about Taylor and Idi Amin. I've named folk you didn't. We can go down the list. Robert Mugabe. You're always great until you rebel, and then all of a sudden here comes the warlord talk. But you can't name any other. You can't name. You won't name any person in Africa, any leader in Africa, any elected official in Africa, which, by the way, the West controls those elections, who is agreeing with European powers that you call a warlord or a dictator. You're not referring to any of them. And I can tell you about plenty of impoverished.
I'm not a scholar. I'm not, look, if you expect me to be some scholar on, like, African history, I'm not.
I'm not expecting you to be a scholar. What I'm saying is that if you are going to try to speak on Africa, you should actually know what you're talking about. That doesn't require a scholarship. That just requires you to have knowledge of it. You're saying, let me tell you how bad Africa is, but you've demonstrated on every single point that you made. If I even ask you one question about it, the first thing you say is, well, I'm not a scholar about it. Then why are you saying these things?
You don't need formal intelligence to find out that Africa is a shithole.
Yes, but you have to be a fool to sit here and say that Africa is a hole, but the white folk are fighting and ready to kill and die to stay in that hole. That's a contradictory statement. That means that either the whites are insane, or what you're saying is a lie.
That's not a contradictory statement. That's intelligence.
Okay, but it can't be. How is it intelligent to fight to stay in a crap hole? How is that intelligence?
Hey, there's resources in hell as well.
Okay, there's also resources in heaven. Why don't you just pile up there?
Well, I can't reveal that. It's part of the white code.
What kind of psycho risks his life to fight to stay in a hellhole? What kind of psychotic does that? That makes no sense.
Look, I'm gonna answer your question. There's resources in Africa, of course, but the whole world's exploiting them. India, China, not just white countries. Israel's probably in there doing something too.
Yes, they are.
There you go.
They're making money off the white South Africans. They're making the whites in South Africa. They're making money off of them, giving them bogus military training, which isn't going to do anything to help them. But yeah, you're going to make a dime. Sure, we'll talk to you and show you how to shoot a gun, which you probably could have learned on your own. And you'll pay us this outrageous amount of money. And I guess we're supposed to be worried because it's the Israelis doing it. Okay. And then we move right along. That's basically what happens there.
There you go.
Don
you guys would do it too.
Well, you know what? I think that your suggestion that black folks should become more barbaric, I don't know if I agree with that. More militarized. You might not have a choice but to do that. But I got to tell you, understand one thing. And this is for everybody to understand. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the points he made about that. What I'm saying is at the end of the day, even as a white Hispanic, you should ask yourself, what type of world are you creating? And is this really the one you want to pass on to your children? It's great for sloganeering. It's great for sitting on the phone with me. It's great for protecting the Hispanic women from my black masculinity, because we wouldn't want that to run wild now, would we? But all that sounds great and everything. But at the end of the day, do you really want to pass on a world to your children where their ability to live and prosper is dictated by people with a code of conduct of who can bust the other person in the head harder and more often than the others? That's something you should think about, because barbarism may be the European legacy, but do you want that to be the European inheritance? I won't blame you for what your fathers did. I blame you for seeing what your fathers did and saying, you know what, that worked out pretty well. That I do. I'll let you have the last word.
You're painting a very, very... If I can have the last word, you're painting a very, very dark picture of what things are. The world's pretty much getting better. Things aren't as bad.
Well, I thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. You are, of course, welcome to give us a call again anytime.
I appreciate it. Hey, thank you for having me on your show.
Broadcast, but thank you very much. He'll get the point about that later. No, brothers and sisters, this is why I created the Black Channel. I created the Black Channel for this purpose. I created the Black Channel for discussions like this. I did not create the Black Channel so we can sit around and talk to each other. I created the Black Channel so that you could hear this yourselves, so that you could understand it. I'm going to separate this out and I'm going to post this as its own independent part of it because I want you to hear that phone call. And by the way, the conversation went very similar with Jared Taylor and Richard Spencer. It went very similar. And you heard what by the way, he did us a solid. He was actually willing to make some suggestions to black people. Okay, let's not be uncivil in the chat. Let's not be uncivil. But definitely he made some points that you all might want to take into account. Might be some things to see. Might be some things to learn. Might be some things that you would be able to utilize yourself. There's a lot to learn from it. I bring you the Black Channel because I want you to hear it firsthand. It is not enough that you just see these things on television. I want you to understand how the inner workings of the mind and the spirit work, because this is what we call science. I liked it because Neely Fuller defined science in its basic terms that have been defined over history. The reason that we have science is because science is the study of the world around us. Why do we study the wheat beetle, and why do we study rock formations, and why do we study other people? For one reason, because we are on this planet and they are on this planet as well with us. So we have to study these things because we're both occupying the same planet, and studying them allows us to learn what is our relationship to them because we occupy the same world. And I want you tonight, to that phone call, review it and analyze what your relationship to him is, and analyze what his relationship to you is, so that you can make an honest assessment. Very good call. I'm glad we had that. Very good. We're not taking any more phone calls right now, but if any white supremacists would like to call in for a future program, by all means, you'll be treated the same way. I didn't sit up here and load words into his mouth. I didn't cut off his call. I didn't sit up here and name call him. I didn't do that. If you're a white supremacist, go right ahead and do that. Go right ahead. By all means. Well, next time we're on, you can't do it tonight. I'm expecting, for those of you who are not aware here, if you are not aware of it, I am doing a re-edit. Well, I finished the re-edit that I did of the documentary Race War. I did a re-edit of it. So you're going to have an opportunity to see that. The version that you saw in theaters, that is not the same one that the rest of you are going to see. That's not what you're going to have. So just be aware. I have actually done a re-edit on the film. I added some things. I enhanced some things. Because if I'm going to put it out, I want to put it out the right way. People have been asking if there was going to be a director's cut. I suppose you could call this the director's cut. So look for that to be available around Thanksgiving. I'll have an announcement on exactly when it's available. And then after that, the 3-disc version will be available as well. Find some friends, find some enemies, find some white supremacists, give them their copy just in time for the holidays. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program. I wasn't able to go over all the names here. If you haven't started using our Streamlabs link, that's going to be something that you want to use there. Streamlabs.com/TBA3. That's Streamlabs.com/TBA3. It is a better way to contribute. If you want to know how it was that you saw people's names showing up on the screen, if they contributed, that's the way that they were doing it. Probably going to make some changes to it so that it looks a little bit more dynamic and is easier to make out. But streamlabs.com/TBA3, streamlabs.com/TBA3. It's a better way to contribute and support if you choose to do so. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio program. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.